it's me, Sweetie, and thank you for being here for my newest video. Today's video is part of a series where I am giving you universally applicable makeup looks for different types and styles of Lolita. Today we will be doing a classic Lolita look that could apply to any Coord that you put together. I usually just do a silent time lapse of my makeup so you can see what I'm doing, but today I will be giving you an in-depth tutorial and step-by-step instructions on how to do this specific look. Now you can start your makeup off any way that you like, but I like to start with my eyes, so I'm going to zoom in the camera and get started. Yes, I really love having the camera this zoomed in, but for your sake, I'm gonna do it. So like I said, we're gonna start off with the eyes, and I start by priming my eyes with this, which is the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Soft Ochre. This is a really great base for any eyeshadow. So this is just going to cancel out any pigmentation you have on your eyelids. Usually they're a little bit darker, or maybe you have veins. So I'm just taking this on a flat synthetic brush, and I'm going to apply it first right in the middle center of the lid. Now the reason we want to start in the middle center is that that's where you want most of the product concentrated. If you're going to be applying any kind of metallic or glitter effect with your eyeshadow, you want most of the stickiness from the base or primer to be in that middle area. Now I usually stop applying this into my crease, and then I will take my ring finger, which has the softest touch to use on your eyes, and just gently blend that out a little bit. I just use mostly little patting motions, maybe a little bit of a swipe upward as well, and then I'll just go along the lash line and kind of make sure that that's blended in there as well. And of course I'm going to do the other eye the same way. And now we're going to jump right into the eye look itself. Today I will be using all of my shadows from the Too Faced Peach palette, which is super cute and has a bunch of great colors for any classic look, I think. So today we're going to be doing a look with 3 different colors, a light, medium, and dark shade, all in a nice neutral tone brown, I would say. So what we want to do first is start with our lightest shade, and for us today that's going to be this shade right here called Georgia, and that's going to be a good place for us to start with this look. So I am going to go in to that shade with a nice fluffy blending brush. You want something fluffy to blend out this eyeshadow so that you can move it around easily and give it a nice diffused look. So just make sure you've got something with a little bit of fluff to it. So I've got the eyeshadow on my brush, and we're gonna go in just a little bit at a time. It's a good idea to apply less than you need than more, because if you put too much eyeshadow down at first, it might be hard to blend it out. So go little by little. So what we're gonna do is go right into the crease of your eyelid, and we're gonna start here on the outer edge and just do some little circular motions to lay down the eyeshadow and also start blending it around. And then we'll move in to the middle, and then finally in to the corner here. And like I said, we're gonna go little by little, so I just picked up a little bit more, and I'm gonna go back in. And I always like to start on the outer part of the crease, because that's where most of the product is going to end up anyway. That's going to be the darkest part of the eye. And so what I'm doing is I'm just doing little circular motions, and I'll make the circles either direction. And then we can also do some back and forth windshield wiper motions just to get the product down. So then to finish it off, I'm going to do some windshield wiper motions just on the edge of where the eyeshadow meets my skin, a little bit above the crease. And I'm going to do this just to make sure it has a nice soft edge and doesn't look too harsh. And I'm also going to bring it out a little bit this way as well. And I'll do the other eye to match. So next what we're going to do is move on to our medium shade, and for that we will be using this nice medium brown right here from the palette called Puree. And again, we're going to use that same fluffy brush, and I'm going to go back into the crease, but this time I'm only going to focus on the outer third to about the halfway point with this slightly darker color. So again, I'm going to start off in the corner here, and I'm just going to do little circular motions. Now, as you go to the darker colors, you do want to be a little bit more careful with how precise you are, just because the darker your color gets, the more out of hand the blending can get as well. So again, just little soft circular motions, and then I'll also do a little windshield wiper action here in the middle just to blend this darker shade we've added with the lighter shade that we put down first. Now, just as we did with that first shade, I'm going to go up to the edge of the shadow and do a little windshield wiper motion just to blend it and make it diffused. And in the same way I did with the first shade, I'm also going to blend it out a little bit this way just so it follows the natural shape of the eye. And then I'll do the same to the other eye. So next we're going to be working more on the lid, and to do that I will be using a slightly more flat brush. It's still quite fluffy, you can see, but it is a little bit flatter, and that's just going to help us apply the product a little easier to the lid. So I've got that same medium brown shade on the brush, and I'm going to apply that just really from at most the halfway point to out to this outer third. We're not going to bring it in any further than that. So the way I'm going to apply this is with short little, it's almost like a stippling and drag motion, just so that we don't get any, strong color deposited in one area. We want to make sure it has a nice diffused look. And again, I'm not going to go any further than that halfway point. That's going to be the furthest point into the lid that this color will reach. And again, I always start in the outer part of the lid just to make sure that the darkest area is going to be right in here. And then the same to the other eye. And for the final color, we're going to go with something even darker, and that's going to be this. See, there we go. And that's going to be this shade down here called Charmed, I'm Sure. And to work with this final darkest shade, I'm going to use another blending brush, but this one is going to be much smaller than the first one that we used. A good rule of thumb is that the darker the eyeshadow you're using, the smaller the brush should be. That'll help you be more precise and not let the blending get too out of hand. So especially with this darker shade, you want to work a little bit at a time. So I've got just a little bit on my brush here, and I'm going to concentrate on this corner here. This like V shape is what I'm going to be outlining, and we're basically just framing our eye. So I'm going to start here in the corner, and I like to do, just like we did on the lid, like short little stippling motions, just to make sure I'm not depositing a lot of color in one area. So I'm just going back and forth on this upper part of the V here, and then I'm going to come down here to the bottom of the eyelid, and also do the same thing, just little back and forth motions, and we just want to come in about a third. And I'll also do a little bit of like a circle blend at the corner where the two lines meet, just to make sure they're nice and blended together. And of course the same to the other eye. And then just to make sure everything is blended really nice, I like to go back into that first lightest shade that we used and blend just along the edge now that all of the shades have been blended together. And we're just going to do very light windshield wiper motions along the edge of that shadow, and you can also do it a little bit lightly here in the corner as well. And same to the other eye. And now to really open up the middle part of the eye here, I'm going to add a little bit of a shimmer. Nothing with a lot of glitter or anything that might be better suited for a sweet look, just something that's going to reflect the light. So we're going to be using this shade down here called Luscious. You can see it's more of a metallic, and it's a really nice champagne color, something neutral that will work with any color or print that you're wearing. So I'm just going to apply that with my ring finger. Again, it'll have the softest touch to use on your eyes, and I'm just going to apply that from the inner corner here to about the halfway point. Now I'm going to do the same application process that I've been doing with the brushes, just using short little stippling and dragging motions. And when you get to the middle point here, you can kind of use your finger to blend the two shades together, the metallic that we're just putting down and the matte light brown shade that we applied. So you can come in the middle and just gently blend them together. And then of course the same to the other eye. And now that the eyeshadow is done, we can move on to our base. For my base, I like to start with my foundation first, and I'll be using this one from CYO. This is unfortunately discontinued. Now I just put this straight onto my face. I do a few little dots, and I will be using a blending sponge that has been dampened and squeezed out. I do this because it gives a little bit more of a glowy, hydrating look, and I have dry skin, so that works best for me. So we're just going to blend this in, starting in the middle of the face, because that's where you want the most payoff, and then blending it into the rest of the face. There we go, nice and blended, and now we'll move on to concealer. So now we're going to do concealer, and for my concealing process, I do two different steps. I will be first applying the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer with a little blending sponge. And as soon as I'm done blending my concealer, I go in with the Laura Mercier Secret Blurring Powder with a microfiber sponge. This will prevent you from accidentally setting any creases with your under eyes, and you'll have a smooth surface to set. So for the concealer, I'm just going to apply one little dot in my inner corner here, and one little dot in the outer corner. And I'm going to start blending here in the inner corner. That's where I and most people get most of their darkness or pigmentation in their under eyes. So I'm just gonna get nice and blended in this corner first, and then I will pull it, whatever is left over that hasn't been blended, into the middle of the under eye. And then I'm gonna do the same thing out here. I'm gonna blend mostly into this corner here where a lot of the darkness is. And then I will pull the rest of the remaining product into the middle area of the under eye. And then I will take that and blend it up, following the shape of my eyelid. And then I'll take the flatter side of the blending sponge and hit it with that as well. And like I said, immediately after I've got the concealer blended, I'm gonna hit it with my setting powder. Just gonna tap gently, and I don't use too much because I have dry skin and my under eyes especially can get dry throughout the day. So I'm just using enough powder to last me for whatever Lolita outing I'll be going on. And then of course I'll do the other eye the same way. Now this next part is optional, but I think it adds a really refined look to your eyeshadow. What I'm going to do is take that medium brown shade that we used on the top part of the eyelid and use this small blending brush and just dust it right underneath our lower eyelid. Not too heavily, we don't want to add a whole lot of pigmentation, just something under there that kind of ties in to the upper eyelid where all that nice detail is. And then we want to make sure it's nice and blended into the corner here. And then we'll do the same for the other eye. So like I said, not mandatory, but I think it just adds a nice touch to finish off any eye look. Now I'm going to go into brows, and in the sweet video I did, which I will link up above, I showed you how I do a more sculpted eyebrow look using a crayon and a gel, but this time I'm just going to use a colored eyebrow gel to give us the color we need and the shape without a really sculpted look. So I'm using the Glossier Boy Brow in the shade Brown, and it just comes on a little spoolie. So I'm going to start in the middle of my brow and just comb the product up and through my hairs, and then I'll come into the front here and kind of do a little back and forth motion. I'll brush the hairs up, and then I'll move back into the tail of the brow here, just kind of combing and following the natural shape of my brow while also brushing upwards. So as you can see between the two brows, it did give it a little more of a filled in look and a slightly more defined shape without being overly sculpted or having to do a little more extra work. And we'll do the same to the other brow. And now we'll move on to eyeliner. I think for this look, I just want to keep it very classic and simple and elegant, and I'm not going to do a wing or anything heavy. I think I just want to do some tight lining for this look. And what that means is I'm going to use my eyeliner, which is the Physicians Formula Eye Booster in Blackest Black, and I'm just going to get right on the lash line in between the lashes to get a tight eyeliner application that still defines the shape of the eye without being really overbearing. So I'm going to kind of tilt my head back a little bit and open my eyes very wide so that I can really see underneath my lashes here. And I'm going to start in the corner and work my way in just with very small, precise application movements with the eyeliner. So starting at the outer corner, I almost do like little wiggling motions so that the eyeliner does get applied in the spot that I put it in, but also a little bit around it without me having to pick up and move my eyeliner very much, because that's where you can run into trouble. So I did just go over the line that I originally made a couple times to darken it up, and you can see the difference between my two eyes. The eyeliner really doesn't distract from the eyeshadow we did. It's not too bold, but it does frame the eye very nice. And so now I'm going to do the same thing to the other eye off camera because you make me nervous. Eyeliner's all done. Now I'm going to move on to mascara, and first I'm going to curl my lashes. And I'm going to use a little bit more of a natural mascara. This is the Glossier Lash Slick. I like it because it does add some nice length and volume without being too clumpy. So I'm going to tilt my head back, make a little bit of a crazy face, and do gentle stroke applications to the outside lashes first, and then move my way in. And then I also like to make extra sure I get those inner lashes that often get missed. And then of course the same to the other eye. So now on to finishing up the face products. I'm going to go in with some blush. I'm using the My Melody and Kuromi collab palette from Wet n Wild, and I'm just going to be taking this lighter blush up here in the corner. Now for a sweet look that I did previously, I would be a little more heavy-handed, but for a classic look, I just want to add a little bit of blush. And the placement is also important as well. For a more sweet look, I'd probably place it more on the apples of my cheeks, but for this classic look, I'll probably put it more over here, closer to where you might put your highlight. So I'm just going to start by doing very soft little circular motions, just dusting on the color a little bit at a time. And then I'll also add in just some more little stippling motions to get a little more color. And then a couple final little circles just to get it nice and blended in. There we go, that's about as much as I want for this classic look. And then same for my other cheek. And moving on to highlighter, I'm going to be using this highlighter palette from Jaclyn Cosmetics, and I'll be using a nice medium shade up here in the corner. So I'm just going to find where my cheekbones are, and I'm just going to brush it back so it naturally catches on my cheekbone that's already there, and then I'll just give it a little bit of a back and forth blend, maybe a little bit of circular motion, and then up here onto my eye socket as well. So there is just a little bit of a more subtle glow going on. And then same to this side as well. And then I'll also take whatever excess I have and just dust it on the tip of my nose like this. And I'll do the same for my Cupid's bow here on my upper lip. And then on a small flat brush, I'll also take a little bit and just put that into the corner of my eyes. With small little circular motions, I'll also blend it up into the eyeshadow that's on either side of it on the upper and lower lids. And then I'll also just add a dab right under my brow here where the brow bone is, just a little bit. And then I like to go with my finger and just kind of blend that out so it's not too striking. And finally, onto the lips, I want something that's pretty much just my actual lip color, maybe just a little more pigmented. So I'm going to be going in with the Glossier Generation G in the shade Like, which is a really good shade match for my natural lip color. There we go. And then this last step is also optional, but if you wanted to give your makeup a little more of an upgrade, I might suggest adding some freckles. I do have this little freckle pen here from the Creme shop. It has a little heart stamp on one side and a very fine tip felt marker on the other. And it's a nice brown shade, and you can just dot on some freckles if you want a cute, classic look without being too over the top. So I'm just gonna add a few of those. And there we have it, the completed Universal Classic Lolita makeup look. So I put together a little classic cord and threw on a wig to complement my look. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and I hope you learned something new that you can bring with you the next time that you do your own classic Lolita makeup look. Like I said, this will be part of a series, so the next look I'll be doing is Gothic Lolita makeup. That should be coming in the near future. If you enjoyed my classic Lolita tutorial today, please consider hitting the subscribe button down below. I would really appreciate it. But that's going to do it for today's Universal Classic Lolita makeup tutorial. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today on my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!